For most of the 20th century, Boeing was the greatest aerospace company on Earth. They built the B, flying fortress that helped win World War II. They built the 707 that launched the jet age. And in 1969, their Saturn V rocket carried human beings to the moon. Boeing wasn't just a company, it was a symbol of American engineering excellence. Engineers ran the boardroom, quality was sacred, and the unofficial motto was simple: never compromise on safety. This is the story of how that company destroyed itself. 1967, Boeing took the biggest gamble in aviation history. They bet the entire company on a plane that many said was impossible, the 737. It was designed to be a short-haul workhorse, simple and reliable. The first one rolled off the line in 1967, and it became the most successful commercial airplane ever built. Over 10,000 737s have been delivered. At any given moment, roughly 2,000 are in the air. The 737 didn't just change Boeing, it changed civilization. It made air travel affordable for the middle class and connected the world like nothing before it. Then came 1997, the year everything changed. Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas in a deal worth $13 billion. On paper, Boeing acquired McDonnell Douglas. In reality, McDonnell Douglas executives took over Boeing. Harry Stonecipher, the new president, came from McDonnell Douglas and brought a ruthless Wall Street mentality. Engineers were pushed out of leadership. MBAs and finance people took their seats. The company headquarters moved from Seattle, where the planes were built, to Chicago, 800 miles away from a single factory floor. It was a deliberate message. Boeing was no longer an engineering company. It was a stock price. The cost-cutting began almost immediately. Boeing outsourced critical manufacturing to suppliers around the world. They pressured workers to speed up production lines. Internal safety reporting was discouraged because it slowed things down. Former engineers described a new culture where questioning management was career suicide. One Boeing engineer later testified that quality inspectors were routinely overruled by managers focused on meeting delivery schedules. The company that once said never compromise on safety was now saying, meet the deadline no matter what. By 2010, Boeing had a problem. Airbus launched the A320neo, a fuel-efficient upgrade to their best-selling jet. Airlines loved it. Boeing had two options: design a brand new airplane which would take a decade and cost billions, or take the 50-year-old 737 design and bolt on larger, more fuel-efficient engines. They chose option 2. The result was the 737 MAX, but there was an engineering problem. The new engines were too large for the 737's low-to-the-ground design, so they mounted the engines further forward and higher on the wing. This changed the plane's aerodynamics, causing the nose to pitch up in certain conditions. Rather than redesign the airframe, Boeing created a software fix. That software fix was called MCAS, the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. It was designed to automatically push the nose down if it detected the plane was pitching too high. But MCAS had a fatal flaw. It relied on a single angle of attack sensor, one sensor, on an airplane carrying 189 people. If that sensor gave a false reading, MCAS would force the nose down and the pilots couldn't stop it. Boeing never told airlines about MCAS. They never included it in the pilot training manuals. They told the FAA it wasn't safety critical. A single sensor that cost about $12 had the power to override 2 experienced pilots and crash a brand new airplane. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 took off from Jakarta, Indonesia. 12 minutes into the flight, a faulty angle of attack sensor triggered MCAS. The system forced the nose down. The pilots fought to regain control, pulling back on the control column over 20 times. But MCAS kept firing, pushing the nose down again and again, every 5 seconds. The pilots had no idea what was happening because Boeing had never told them MCAS existed. After 12 agonizing minutes, the plane dove into the Java Sea at over 450 miles per hour. All 189 people on board were killed. The youngest passenger was a 1-year-old child. Boeing's response was shameful. They blamed the pilots. They blamed the airline. They insisted the 737 MAX was safe. They lobbied against grounding the fleet. 5 months later, on March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 took off from Addis Ababa. 6 minutes after takeoff, the same scenario repeated. A faulty sensor triggered MCAS. The pilots followed Boeing's emergency procedures. It didn't work. The plane crashed into a field at 575 miles per hour. All 157 people from 35 countries were killed. Within 3 days, every country in the world grounded the 737 MAX. The United States was the last to do so. What followed was one of the most damning corporate investigations in American history. Whistleblowers came forward revealing that Boeing had pressured the FAA to delegate safety certification back to Boeing itself. Internal messages showed Boeing employees mocking the plane. One engineer wrote, "This airplane is designed by clowns who are supervised by monkeys." Another wrote, "I wouldn't put my family on a MAX." Boeing's own chief technical pilot had discovered the MCAS issue during testing, but kept it out of the pilot manuals to avoid costly simulator training requirements. Emails showed executives celebrating saving money by limiting pilot training to a 1-hour iPad course. The aftermath has been staggering. Boeing has lost over $20 billion in direct costs from the MAX crisis. Their stock dropped by over 60% from its 2019 peak. In January 2021, Boeing agreed to pay $2.5 billion to settle criminal fraud charges, admitting their employees deceived the FAA. In 2024, a door plug blew out of a 737 MAX 9 mid-flight on an Alaska Airlines plane, ripping a hole in the fuselage at 16,000 feet. Miraculously, no one died, but it proved the quality problems were far from over. Boeing, the company that once represented the pinnacle of American engineering, now represents everything wrong with putting shareholders above safety. 346 people paid the ultimate price so that executives could save money. If you found this story important, subscribe. We cover stories like this every week.